Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show. So, with me today, I have Joe Thambu Sensei, who is an Aikido instructor in Australia. Many of you may know him. He's a 8th Dan Yoshinkan. Hello, Sensei Joe. Can you hear me at all?
Awesome, I can. Good to hear you again, Byron Sensei.
And you?
And cheers. I'm
Absolutely.
having a cheeky gin and tonic.
Well, it's for the best. What time is it with you right now?
It's about 8:45 at night.
9:15. It's not too bad. It's
Yep.
about 12:30 for me. So, I can't start drinking too soon. Although, as they say, it's 8 o'clock somewhere in the world. So, this just proves it.
Somewhere in the world. Yeah, yeah, yep, yep.
So, so
I've given
tell,
up thinking like that.
So
Sorry. Go
tell
on.
me a little
Shoot.
bit about yourself. You started in, and most people probably know you, but they don't know of your history. So you started Aikido at a very young age with your father. Tell me a bit about it.
Okay, so small correction. I started Aikido at age of 11 with my uncle, not my father.
Okay.
So um, my uncle's dojo is on the same block of land as the family home.
Hmm.
He's my father's brother, and he'd been doing Aikido for a long time. He introduced Aikido to Malaysia. And growing up there, I trained from the age of 11 to about 18. And then I moved to Australia. And in that time, I was really fortunate. A lot of top ranking martial artists would come to my uncle's dojo. Most prominent would have been Don Drager Sensei, his teacher, Shimizu Sensei, and a whole lot of other people. Chip Armstrong, just people who just made a real big mark in martial arts. So I was lucky growing up.
And what prompted you to move to Australia, if you don't mind me asking?
So I did well at high school, and my uncle and my father said, if you do well, we'd send you to Japan. And I did well, and they didn't send me. They said, next year. And I thought, oh, just another broken promise. So a friend of mine was going to Australia to study. I went with him, got the papers, put it in front of my father. He said, what's this for? I said, I'm going to Australia. He looked at my mum. My mum shrugged her shoulders. Next thing I knew, I was in Australia.
And was it always Melbourne?
Always Melbourne, because I had a sister here. And I came out here, did Aikikai for a while, just wasn't quite suited to it, stopped. Uh, and I think didn't do anything for about 4 or 5 months, which was the longest break outside COVID in my life from Aikido. And then I started training at a dojo, a judo dojo. I went to visit a gentleman called Ivan Zavechano Sensei, and there's a good story here. Uh, his dojo was one street away from where I lived, and the name of the dojo was Shudokan Budo Academy. Same dojo, same name as my uncle's dojo. I walked in. He said, "Are you interested in judo?" And I said, "No. I'd like to maybe hire it for Aikido." And he says, "Aikido doesn't work." I said, "Would you mind if I walk?" As in, number of people, etc. So I said, "Do you mind if I watch?" He goes, "No, of course. Have a seat." And I sat in Caesar because I was at the edge of the mat. And he says, "You can sit over there." And I said, I'm okay." And I wasn't showing off anything. I just sat in Caesar because it was normal for me. And I think I sat in Caesar for about 20 minutes. And he came around and walked past me and he said, "What style of Aikido?" And I said, "Yoshinkan." He says, "Okay, when do you want to start?"
From
Now,
sitting in Caesar.
1 month later, yep, 1 month later, after that, I got a letter from Drager Sensei saying to me, "Your uncle says you're having trouble finding a dojo to train at. Go see my judo buddy from the Kodokan days." Who is it? Same man. So, same name as my uncle's dojo, one street away, and a friend, the same person Drager Sensei recommended.
So it was fate.
How's that? Yeah, it's right. In the city of
Yeah.
3 mil. Yeah.
So what prompted you to go to Japan? You ultimately did land up in Japan. I know you did because you've
Yes.
trained there for a while.
So I was really, really hopeless. I was showdown when I came out here, and then I had a little dojo going with half a dozen people, and I was really crap. And I got to a point where I said, "No, I need to go to Japan." So I went to Japan for 3 months, stayed in the dojo, uh, came back to Australia, kept going again, and then in that was in 1983, and in 1989 I thought, I've just hit the wall. I'm going to give up. And I thought, hey, before I give up, why don't I go to Japan again? So I went to Japan for 6 months, trained like hell, and I think in '89 it was like the turning point in my life. '83 was important because I stayed in the dojo, in the Koganai dojo, and that was probably one of the formative years of my life. And in '89 was when my whole Aikido world changed.
Hmm. So how long in total did you actually train in Japan over
Ah,
the time?
look, I've never stayed for as long as a lot of my contemporaries.
Hmm.
Um, I've been to Japan about 12 times. Shortest period, 2 weeks. Longest period, 6 months. So I don't know,
Hmm.
to be
No,
honest. Yeah.
I know Robert lived there for like years and
Oh,
years.
yes, yeah, yeah. Mustard Sensei lived there for a long time, and Darren Friend as well.
Hmm.
They were like 10 years, 13 years. I, no offense to the Japanese, but I always needed an exit strategy. Whenever I went to Japan, I needed to know when I'd be leaving.
Yeah.
It was very constricting for me, Japan.
Japan is a beautiful country, but living there full time as a foreigner, like, yeah, man, it's
It is a
tough.
beautiful country, and I would go back anytime, but I cannot stay for long.
Mm, no, that's interesting. So, how did you actually meet Robert? Because you and Robert do a lot of tours together. They're always
Mm.
entertaining. You two are like kind of like Bonnie and Clyde. You get you two on a mat, and it's entertaining as hell. Like, how did you meet him?
Uh, when I went in '89, my second trip there, uh, he'd already been there for like a couple of years, and he wasn't an instructor yet, but he was training there, and we got along. I was thrown in, Chida Sensei said to me, "Do you want to train with the police?" And I said yes. So I was training with the police a lot. And if you're training with the police, all you got is railed on all the time.
Hmm.
You were just told you were shit, you were no good, you were rubbish, and it was just like. And one day in the change room, I was really despondent. I was sitting there with my head down like this, and he came up to me and put his arm around me. He goes, "You're doing fine, man. Don't let them get to you. You're doing fine. We all had to go through this." And he said the right thing at the right time. And since then, we've been really good friends.
Mm. I remember having a very similar experience with the Bada Sensei. I remember going through to the dojo the first time with him, going there as a young Shodan, and like the first thing he said to me is like, "How are you Shodan? Like, I don't even think I'd give you like sixth Q." And I was like, "Okay, thanks." And then he
Yeah.
same thing, sat there for ages telling me how crap I was, and then on the final day, he took me out to dinner, and he goes, Us Japanese, we have this thing like when we're screaming at you, we care. When we stop screaming, like you should probably leave. So he's like, he's like, we have a strange way of showing that we actually give a damn. It's odd.
And that's the truth. That's the truth. If you know, if they see you any good, then they don't want to fan your ego.
Yeah,
They want to kill your ego because the teachers see that as part of their job.
yeah.
Uh, and if you're waiting for a pat on the back, it ain't gonna come.
Nope.
The closer you are to them, the less likely you're gonna get it.
Robert tells the story that, or he was always told to relax, and then he says, this one day everything came together, and he threw this guy, and was like the clouds parted, and the sunrise came, and then the guy came up to him and said, "Relax," and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
I
that's
went
good."
to in 2005. I won an award for the best demonstration. Mustard Sensei has won this award as well. Best demonstration. I didn't even know I'd won the award, right? Anyway, won it. Then went up to Yamanashi to train with Takino Sensei and did the bow. Takino Sensei called me up the front, said, everyone saw Joe Thambu's demonstration. He did a fabulous demonstration. When he first came to the Hombu Dojo, I was the Shihan and I taught him, and he always trains hard, etc. And Takino Sensei never says that about anyone. And he just built me up, and I thought, wow, I'm good, right? And then he said, okay, you guys go over there and practice. My guys are practicing for a demo. Before I could even ask a question, he just came over. He goes, "You don't understand Kamai. Your ukemi is no good. You don't understand how to be unuke. You don't know this. You don't know Hirikinose. You know nothing. Da 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 da," and just railed on me. And he did that for the whole hour and a half. And then at the end, when I was leaving, he patted me on the back, goes, "Joe, keep up the good work."
You're shit, but
I didn't know
keep
where
up
that
the
was.
good work.
Yeah, I didn't know where that was coming or going.
Uh, that sounds funny. That sounds funny. So
It,
obviously,
not at the time.
your big thing, like it's always funny. As I say, when you and Robert on a mat, that's freak hilarious. It's really hilarious. But it's always like, there's you, David, and then he's like Goliath. Like there's always this disparity. If anybody's seen any pictures of you, it's fuck hilarious. But with that being said, like your big thing and the thing that always wows me whenever I watch your demonstrations is your way to walk on your knees faster than I can probably run on my feet. It's a little bit freaky. How did that all come about? Like everyone that watches you do that is just like, yeah, this guy's faster. How did
Okay,
you get that?
there's two answers to that question, right? The easy one first. Um, I used to teach a lot of kids, and one of those games was in Chico, where kids trying to catch you,
Mm,
and kids don't hold back; they just plow at you, and you can't throw kids hard. So the only thing you can do is evade and just push them away.
mm,
So as you get better, you get more and more kids start running at you, and to be honest, that's how it started, right? And um, why I do it in demonstrations, why I originally did it, and this is a trade secret, is I wanted to do what was something very typically Japanese,
mm,
and I wanted to do it better than anyone else. So I picked Swati Jiwaza, and I said, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do the best I can.
mm,
And that's why I do it in demonstrations. For that reason, because I think I want to show the Japanese that us foreigners can play by your rules and be as good as you.
mm,
Not make our own rules. I don't create my own rules. I use their rules and try and be as good as them.
mm,
That's one thing. Um, the other thing, and this is really, really important, and it's the formative cornerstone of my Aikido. My uncle used to talk about Shura Gozo Kancho as, he's saying that man was really fast. He was really fast. That's all. The first thing he would say was, "You're really fast." So when I went to Japan, I saw Kancho Sensei and I thought, that was an understatement. This guy's amazing, right? And being my size, working on doors of clubs and stuff like that, if I didn't have speed, I had nothing. The best technique in the world, I could not take a hit. You know how small I am, right?
mm,
So my Aikido is about speed and agility. And that's really, really important. Master Sensei's Aikido is about the core body strength and the power. Mine is about speed and agility. So in that way, I guess we balance each other, and we say the same things, but we say different things, if you know what I mean.
mm. You definitely both have your own positives, and that's why I say like you two together are always like Bonnie and Clyde. You complement each other
Well,
fantastically. You go
some say
like
like we're a married couple, but we won't go there.
so tell me, like you mentioned the Shioda Sensei. Did you met the guy?
Yes,
And
yes.
what was he like?
He was a different person to different people.
Mm,
Like we talked about Obata Sensei before, he was really harsh to his uchideshi,
mm,
really harsh. Um, I have an experience of once training with the police in '83, and I'll never forget this. I Kancho Sensei walked on the mat, and in some dojos, everyone stops and bows to the teacher. And here, no, you got to keep training. You don't even look at him. He walks on the mat and he yelled at one of the instructors and said, "What are you doing? This is rubbish. This is not what I want," etc. And just went berserk at this instructor and walked off the mat. And the instructor just laid into this copper, like physically, just bang. That's not what we thought. You just, and it was not nice. He just laid into the instructor and into the copper, and the copper was just apologizing, and he was punching and kicking him.
mm,
Same day, same day, I'm training in the general class. Kancho Sensei walks on the mat and walks around and says to people, "How's your wife? How's your husband? Have you had a nice day? How are you?" Same person, same dojo, different, totally different attitude.
mm.
And a lot of people say he's a nice man. Yes, he was to certain people. Um, I met him a few times. I never would say that I learned off him. I learned off his students, but I was fortunate enough to be the last person he tested.
Mm.
My test was that good, he died afterwards, or that bad. Yeah.
Oh, that bad. Well, did you pass? Because if you passed, was that good?
I passed, and yeah, yeah. By all accounts, I did well. But I reckon the only reason I passed is because one of my ukes dislocated his shoulder. He did it to make me look good.
So I got to ask. Obviously, we mentioned Bada Sensei, and I know you know the guy, and you've obviously trained with him. So how did you meet him?
Um, in in the mid 90s, there was a guy called Paul Pocock who came back to Australia. He was Australian, went to the States, trained under Bada Sensei, was in Uchideshi for a while. Then he came back and he said he had a small Shinkendo following here, and he said he wanted to bring a Bada Sensei out and needed help. And I said, "Yep, I'll help you." So we brought him down together in I think maybe '97 or something like that. And since then, I've managed to keep contact with the Bada Sensei, and I would not say he's my teacher. That would be rude, but I would not say I'm his. How do you say this, right? He's one of my teachers, but I'm not his student. If you know what I mean.
Mm. So he's more an
He's an
inspiration
influence on my
yeah. He's an influence. Yeah.
big influence on my Aikido. Big
Mm.
influence. Yeah,
Interestingly enough,
and
he always says to me that Joe Thambu says, in his opinion, he says that he's the most successful Yoshinkan Aikido instructor outside of Japan. He always says that your
I
following in Australia is very good.
Obada Sensei is probably a bit biased, but I wouldn't say that. But um, you know, I think that following a teacher or choosing someone to be your influence or whatever, right, is not just a matter of a technical thing.
Mm.
Uh, from the time I met him, I felt an affinity to him, and if Obada Sensei picked up the phone and said, "I need to talk to you, come to LA," I'd be on the next plane. And there's not many people I do that for.
Mm. No, he's a great guy.
So the respect I have for him, it's not just technical, right? He Takano Sensei asked me once why I like Obata Sensei so much, and I said because his technique is really strong and he's got a really big heart. And Takano Sensei said to me, "That's a true Budoka."
Mm. Mm. He's definitely one of a kind though when it comes through to the Japanese teachers, because like you listen to him talk and he's like, oh, some Japanese teachers it's all about the wind and the trees and the energy. He's like, no, for me it's just like do a really strong technique and make sure they feel pain. You're like, okay, like he's a straightforward guy to connect with, man. He is what he is.
Yeah, but there is also a deeper side to him, right?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, when he starts going on about the eight circles in the Shinkendo thing, I go lost. I get lost. But but
you and
he's
me
also
both.
he he can also be very succinct and very simple.
Mm.
He once he said to me, "Look, your life is like a movie. You're the director, you're the star, you're the producer, you're the script writer. If you don't like the script, change the script. You don't like what you're seeing, you're the cameraman, change the cameras. You don't like the extras, change the people around you. Your life, don't complain."
Yeah. He uses that
And that's
analogy
very
because of
succinct.
his time in LA. It's like it's something that he knows very well, having actually gone to
Yeah.
LA and worked with the stunt people and there. So it's a great analogy. It's a great way to put it across to
Yeah.
Western ideals.
And I also, like Obasa Sensei a lot because uh, he's a he's a traditionalist, but not a conservative.
Mm,
A lot of people who are traditionalists hide behind that veneer of they're actually conservative. They're not traditionalists.
mm,
And he is not a conservative. He's a traditionalist with a big T. But man, he can think ahead. He said to me once, look, all this stuff about someone attacking you with a knife in Aikido, like just bang like this or like this or just stabbing you. He goes, you find a way. He said to me, you find a way to defend against someone coming at you 2, 3 times with the same stroke. And I did. I looked at other martial arts and I found ways. I'm not saying I'm foolproof or whatever, but because of what he said, I said, yep, that's what I need to do.
Which actually brings us
So,
into a really good topic of like Aikido in the modern world obviously gets a lot of rap because the big thing at the moment is obviously MMA and being able to compete in the cage and Aikido is always deemed to have some techniques that apply good pressure, but they say that it's ineffective because it lacks pressure testing in the environment. So in other words, you don't have
yep,
somebody actively resisting you. And obviously, if you speak to most Aikidoka, they'll say, well, the reason for that is because you don't want to cause an injury, and they want to have longevity of training. And then some people say, well, that's just a crock. And so it doesn't take anybody any stretch of time to say, to just search on YouTube and they'll see like there's no shortage of people saying Aikido's fake. What's your
yep,
what's your view? You've been in it a long time, so what's your view?
yep. What's your question again? Is it fake or are you questioning the efficacy of Aikido?
I suppose my question is, what's your view on the modern view on it? So obviously, at one point in time, it was people viewed it with a degree of mysticism, but now they kind of look at it as a very skeptical thing. It's now, should we say, popular to be skeptical. So what's your view on that?
I, I don't think there's a monolithical view on Aikido. I
Mm,
think there are always those people who will drag it down.
mm,
Those people who, will Aikido work in the cage? No.
no.
Would I go in the cage? Never. Um, have I used it? Yes. Has it been pressure tested? Have I pressure tested it? Not out of uh, choice, but yes. I've used it. I've pressure tested it. Um, but tell me, do you want your kids to grow up to be like Bada Sensei, or do you want their kids to grow up to be like Conor McGregor?
Mm.
You
Yeah, I
know,
suppose I suppose a
I
Bada Sensei. Like anybody would say that,
yeah,
unless they want a thug.
yes, yes, yeah. Look, and I've worked in doors of clubs, okay, where I worked with bodybuilders, and they stood out there with their arms, with the chest puffed out, the arms flexed all the time, and they thought they were on stage. I worked with people who fought in the ring, and they stood on the door of a club like they owned the area. You're gonna bring trouble upon you. I
Mm,
stood there like I would in the dojo. Hey, welcome, come in. You know,
mm,
I was a doorman, not a doormat.
yeah.
Okay, and this is you have that choice in life. Now, a lot of people who are skeptical about Aikido and who think it doesn't work and all that. Well, can I swear now?
Yeah.
Can
You're
I?
far
Yeah.
enough into the video.
Well, fuck it. Okay, if Aikido doesn't work, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So why are you harping on about it? Why don't you move and do something else?
Yeah.
There's something about Aikido that a lot of people who leave Taekwondo never go back, never even touch it, never do anything. People do karate. People who do Aikido always harp on it, come back to it.
Mm,
Negatively or positively, they want to come back. Why is that? Ask yourself, why are you harping on about Aikido? Because there's something there that is unresolved in you that you're looking for.
mm.
And I'm pretty happy in Aikido. Is it the ultimate martial art? Hey, no. Is it the best martial art for me? Damn sure. Yes.
That's a good answer. I
And that's
suppose
the
I suppose from my perspective, I wonder, and I wonder if you have a view on this, but for me personally, and it's something whenever I talk about this topic, this is the way I reference it. But I do personally feel that part of the demise or the, should we say, the tarnishing of Aikido's reputation comes in the proverbial discussion on the street. This is how things work in the street. And quite often they come from people that have never lived on the street. They're people that have never lived in a dangerous neighborhood. They're like an overweight guy who drives a BMW to the dojo and never has to kind of
yep.
kind of face the street. But they're always the guy that wants to tell you about the street, and then he always wants to show you something that you're like, mate, this is dumb. What's your view?
Why would I even engage with a prick like that?
Well, we all
I,
know
I,
there's
I'm
teachers, right?
serious. I'm serious. Um, I've been doing like this is my 50th year of Aikido. Okay. Have I had people come in the dojo and challenge me? Yes. Have I had people try and take my head off on the street? Yes. Has it always worked? No. Right. But I'm still here to talk about it. And Aikido has given me what I need. It's made me who I am. And I'm not going to go out and challenge someone because it, it, the last person who said to me, "Show me how good you are," and I said to him, "Look, I don't like you enough. Neither do I hate you enough to prove myself. So fuck off." Um, why engage with someone who's like, hey,
Yeah,
but
but I
we
suppose my
you
point
and I
though
have
is
to
you.
have,
My point though is you
yeah,
know
go
that
on.
guy, right? And that's what I'm saying. That's the guy that kind of destroys the veneer of what it is. That's the guy that kind of like he's the guy who's talking the rubbish that then makes everybody else go, oh, has this actually got any legitimacy? And then they look at that guy's video and they're like, nah, look, here's an example of why it has no legitimacy. And you're like, the guy's an
Yeah.
idiot. But
And
people don't know that.
and I think the problem with us Aikido people like you and me now is we're giving airtime to pricks like that.
Mm,
Why don't we talk about what we believe rather than what their criticisms are?
mm,
So a while ago on YouTube, one of my clips came up, and there was all these disparaging remarks, right? And I saw one remark that said he has worked on doors of clubs. He's been doing it for 40 years. Don't you think he's proven himself enough?
mm,
What more proof is there?
mm. Longevity of time, huh? But that's,
Yeah,
as we rightly say, how
and
do you
and
want to
I'm
raise your child? But you see, you're bringing it to a different area, which a lot of people don't approach martial arts from anymore. You know, the whole concept of Budo was like, okay, improve who you are, improve your character. I mean, Bada Sensei goes on about this quite a lot, so no doubt so do you. But most people come to the dojo because they want that. I mean, think about the way that it's marketed. It's going to be exercise. It's going to be self defense. It's going to protect you in the street. And I suppose that's why I'm
yeah.
talking about, these street teachers because that's the way they
Okay, and
approach people.
that's fair enough. How much everything's subjective, right?
Mm.
Okay, how much expertise would it take to defend yourself against a 12-year-old kid?
Yeah, not a lot.
Bugger all. Yeah. Yeah. How much expertise is it going to take yourself to defend yourself against three people on the street?
Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah. And there's no street. Uh, Look, I saw a guy who doing security with a guy, right? He dropped this guy, ended up in a tussle. He went straight into an armbar and got the guy an armbar. The guy bit his Achilles tendon. Bit his Achilles tendon. Ended up breaking the guy's arm, but he walks with a limp to this day.
Mm.
They say that every martial art should think about a knife defense. Okay, your thing is I'm not saying this is for me, but people say every martial art should think what happens if he's got a knife in his pocket or a syringe or whatever. So would your first reaction would be an Aikido reaction or a grappling reaction?
For me, guy has a knife in his pocket. What's my reaction? Get the hell
You
out of
you
here.
don't know that. You don't know that. You
No.
don't know that. Yeah.
But I suppose
And
that's
yeah,
that's
I'll bolt
that's
first.
why for me
Yeah.
personally, I never get that close to people because I don't want to be in the situation where I have to find out.
Yeah. No, but and I was like that. I was really in the same position. I was the nicest person out, but I was
Mm.
teaching a lot of crowd controllers, a lot of police officers, law enforcement in the 90s. I was teaching a lot of them. And I asked myself, is what I'm teaching working? And do I have the balls to make it work? The
Mm.
only way I could answer that was put myself on the door of a club.
Mm.
And I did that for 5 years. I
Mm.
had to answer my own questions.
Mm.
And yeah, so, I can't speak for other people. I can only speak for myself.
Mm.
Has Aikido worked for me? Yes. Has it worked all the time, every time? No.
No. I always say to people in my own dojo, so I don't know if you can see, but that there
I can see
is
that.
the
Yep.
most effective way for the street. If you're coming here looking for the street, there you go. Get one of them. 10 minutes on a range, you're all good. Um,
Yeah.
I personally don't push the whole street logic, but that's just me. And as I say, I know when I see a lot of like the famous guys online that kind of talk about their experiences with Aikido, it's always like, this won't work in the cage. It won't work here. It won't work there. And I suppose it's always,
Yep. I would agree with them. And this, what do you want to talk about next? Mm.
that's a very
Um,
positive approach.
I, my uncle once said to me, right? He said that he used to do judo, and
Mm.
he said, if you look at a top flight judo person, right? He had two techniques, and he could throw you from any position, any grab, anything with one of those two techniques. He had maybe another three peripheral techniques, but he would train those two again and again and again and again. Same with karate people.
Mm.
And they could get you from any position, anytime with those two techniques.
Yeah.
And you know what he said? You ever tried talking to one of those guys? They got nothing. They've got nothing. They're as boring as those two techniques they can do. You
Mm.
want to talk to them about those two techniques? Fine. You want to talk to them about judo philosophy? They got nothing. Because there's no abundance in their life.
Mm.
You know, I talked to Bada Sensei. Let me use him as an example, right? I ask him a question. He's already answered my next three.
Mm.
That's the kind of man I want my children to be like.
Mm.
Someone who's passionate, someone who's knowledgeable, someone who can hold his ground.
So I
That's,
suppose the
yeah.
question I'd have for you is around, like, as we know, I also run a different podcast on YouTube, and we talk quite a lot about politics and stuff. And
Yep.
one of the things that happen, it's the conversation I'm not going to have with you. I know that I talk to you about politics, your eyes will square, and you'll probably fall asleep. But you
No,
know,
go for it. Go for it. I love politics. Yeah.
but in the modern world, obviously, we're seeing a rise of modernism, and we're seeing like the rise of, should we say, instant gratification, and people not really looking for any kind of significant meaning in their life. Are you experiencing that with the younger generation? Are you finding it harder to teach like kids, the lack of attention span or wanting to try hard? I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people, and a lot of people kind of moan about this type of thing. What's your experience like?
Hey, when someone comes off the street and they want to do Aikido, right? They don't know anything about Aikido.
Mm.
It's what we give them. So if we're gonna blame anyone, blame us.
Mm.
Blame me.
Mm.
If we developing people with no attention span and stuff like that, blame the current crop of teachers.
Mm.
Our teachers did well with us. Where did we go wrong? I
Mm.
take responsibility
Mm.
because I tell you what, I've got teenagers here who, if I say practice this for 1 hour, they will. And I've got teenagers here who say practice this for 1 hour. After 2 minutes ago, I've had enough. So I don't think it's quite right to blame the youth of today. I mean, I started training at 11, remember, and I had my attention span was zero. I clipped across the head all the time. I was shit. I got kids here who just run circles around me at the same age. So I think we need to ask ourselves, if there's something wrong with tomorrow's generation, it's the teachers of today who need to answer that question. And
Mm.
I need to answer that question.
Mm. But
So the buck stops here.
what's your experience like when they come through the door? Obviously, some parents these days. I mean, I've had this experience too. Some parents don't like you
Mm.
shouting at their kid. You're like, mate, it's martial arts. That's what we do. Like, you know, and you're not kind of abusing the kid, but it's like, as Bada Sensei always says, like if somebody's going to cross the road and they're about to walk in front of a car, do you go, "Excuse me, man, please hold up," or do you go, "Stop"? You know, because shouting gives you a degree of urgency and makes people listen immediately. And when you're in a high environment where there's prone to injury, you need people to respond like that. But a lot of parents don't want you doing that now to their kid. They don't like it. Have
Well,
have, have you had
then
that
my dojo is
experience?
not for them. My dojo is not for them. I will hit a kid, I will kick a kid, I will yell at a kid, and I will do the same to adults.
Mm.
I do literally kick kids. I'm the only one in my dojo who will do that, but I do that.
Just for everybody who's
But
watching,
by that same token,
Sensei Joe is
by
not a
that same
child
token,
abuser.
call it whatever you want. I don't care. I will. I got two rules. One, I will not do anything to your kid in front of you that I won't do if you're not there.
Mm.
Two, I will give your kid 100%, and I expect 100%. And if your kid has a problem with school and you can't rock up, I will rock up. And I've done that before. I've had kids run away from home and turn up at the dojo. Okay, that's my commitment. And it's not just words, right? What we offer people is a way of passion. I live in my dojo. I'm in my gi because I just finished the class, right? I live in my dojo, um, and people turn up at all times, and this is a community, and I will look after kids the way I expect someone to look after my daughters. I will give them the same passion that I can't, whether they accept it or not is not up to me, but I will give them the same amount of passion, the same amount of uh, discipline that I would do to my daughters.
Mm.
So Aikido is not just something you practice; it's something you do. And if I can change anything, it's that. I don't want people to learn Aikido. I don't want people to do Aikido. I want people to do, to do, to be, to do. And in essence, that's what Zen is, yeah, to do.
Mm. No,
Not
so
just
there's
to
a great,
practice, not just to, yeah.
it's a great
And
philosophy.
and again, I look at Shira Gozo Kancha. That was him.
Mm.
He didn't give a rat's ass about anything except Aikido in his dojo. Obata Sensei, you know, look at him. Look at his passion. His passion. He sweats passion. You know,
He does.
I've seen him. Yeah, I've seen him just yell at people, scream at people. And then smile.
I've
Takano
seen him on
Sensei.
a mat, full blown, his like almost like delirious with flu, still teaching a class.
Yep, yep,
Mm.
yep.
Mm.
I
I've
had a
seen.
teacher once who came down and did a seminar, and he lost the plot and he went really nasty on some students. Went back to Japan and he wrote to me and he said, "I apologize if I was really harsh. It was because I'm passionate about what I do."
Mm.
You can accept that or not, but that was his explanation, and I accept that.
So I got to ask, have you found COVID? Because as you say, you live in the dojo, so your dojo is your life. COVID must have been very
Mm.
difficult for you.
Yeah, and we've got two full-time dojos, and I've had to sell one, the physical building, um, to make sure that the other one survives.
Mm.
Um, so I think that it's been hard for me, and but it's been hard on a lot of people, so I can't
Mm.
complain. Um, a lot of people are struggling, and martial artists, especially gyms as well. But if it's your passion, then hang in there and do what you want.
Mm.
Like if I ran a 7-Eleven, and being a good Indian, I should be good at running a 7-Eleven. Um,
That's racist.
I'd make a lot of money. But that's not where I am. That's not my passion. I have an old Vietnamese student, and I used to joke with him and said, oh, I think I'm going to give up and, give up martial arts. And he said to me once, he said, my wife said to me that if you were born 300 years ago, you'd be a martial arts teacher. You're born 300 years from now, you'll be a martial arts teacher. You're born now, you'll be a martial arts teacher. That's your destiny.
Mm.
And I guess yeah, it's my destiny. I accept it and I love it.
So obviously, for those of you who don't know, Melbourne had, I think, the strictest lockdown in the world.
Strictest, longest lockdown in the world, yes.
Still ongoing, or you done
And
now?
no, it's all done, dusted. Don't use mask anymore. Don't use anything. Yeah, we don't even talk about numbers of COVID. Don't exist no more.
It's amazing, eh? It just disappeared.
Done. Yeah, yeah.
I,
Look,
I,
I
com-
won't go
I
into that
commonly
part
say
of it,
to
but yeah,
people, like, the world owes Putin a debt of thanks, because the minute he went and invaded Ukraine, it was like he cured COVID overnight. Nobody talked about it
yeah.
anymore.
Everyone went from being an expert on COVID to being an expert on Ukraine.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've got a few Ukrainian friends that do Shinkano, and my hearts and prayers goes out to all of them, and I hope they're all safe.
Yeah,
So, that's not to make
I, I,
light of
I
that
know a lot.
situation.
I know a lot of Ukrainian people, and yeah, I wish I could help them more than I have.
Mm,
Yep.
yeah. So how,
And
how are you
how's it
how are you
going for
finding
you?
it now?
How
Do people have to
I
like
asked
people
you
come in
first,
your
how are
class
you
and they?
going?
Ooh,
How are you
that's a tough
going?
one. I'm living between two countries, so it becomes very difficult. The UK had a very strict approach to sports clubs during COVID. A lot of the gyms, as you know, were shut down and people were prohibited from going
Mm,
down. When the actual lockdown stopped, the sports clubs still got quite a bad rep, and there were a few that tried to open up. A few went back to kind of dojos with the whole like social distancing thing, which is very difficult with Aikido because obviously a lot of
yeah,
Aikido is close proximity and they're like 2 meter proximity. Like, how do you do that? Um, but a lot tried to do the whole kind of sanitizing your hands and forcing the distance. But even then, like, the police didn't really want to know, and there were a number of instances where police would rock up to dojos and be like, "No, the crowd numbers are too high. You need to shut down and go
mm,
home." And that prompted a
yeah,
lot of people just kind of like to pack up and just kind of give it in. And I know the British Aikido Board and the British Aikido
yeah.
Association have recorded record numbers of dojos closing over that period. It really wasn't helped by the fact that a lot of the halls, as you know, like, you contracted to them, so a lot of the halls wanted you to continue to pay your rent even though you weren't there, and it's like, hang on, and I really kind of can't pay the rent because I got no students. And a lot of the students, because they were like on furlough and that, a lot of them said, well,
Mm,
they don't want to pay because what are they paying for? It's not like they're there. So because they're all on restricted incomes anyway, they didn't really want to pay. So it made it very difficult to have a viable proposition to kind of continue to do it almost on a even on a non-profit basis. It made it very difficult for a lot of individuals. So I'd class
You know,
myself in that bracket too.
this is I think the singularly the biggest difference between Budo in Japan and outside Japan.
Mm,
In Japan, there's benefactors. The government subsidizes it because it's looked at as a cultural pursuit.
yeah.
Aikido, karate, kendo, etc., etc. Look at a cultural pursuit, and you got benefactors, you got sponsors, and it's what made people like Ueshiba and Shioda be able to concentrate on their technique and not worry about the business aspect. So if you got any benefactors, send them my way, please.
If I had them, I'd send them your way too, mate.
Can you imagine if Obata Sensei had those benefactors?
Yeah, I can imagine how big he would be, but it's not the Western way though, is it? It's like the Western way. We're very fickle with kind of you know we like something
No,
today and
yeah, we benefactors to lawn bowls clubs, yeah,
pretty much, or the golf club.
yeah, golf club, yeah, lawn bowls, golf club, yeah. So in Japan, it's looked upon as a cultural activity, and it's subsidized, uh, sponsorships, etc., etc.
Hmm.
That's what we need.
Did you find post COVID though that like some people were a little bit, should we say, reluctant to return to the dojo on fear of COVID?
A, a lot of people, a lot of
Mm,
people. But I think also that break, a lot of people thought, okay, I'd try something new. And you
yeah,
can't blame them for that. And
yeah,
we didn't get that new influx.
yeah.
Again, partially, I think if you go onto YouTube now and you Google Aikido, you see so much crap,
Mm,
which is what you were talking about before. Um, and people go, no, I can't do that. That's rubbish,
mm. Yeah, I
you
mean,
know.
I think
But
it's
then
become it became
those
more
same those
difficult.
same people those same people talk heaps about Sistema, and
Mm,
I don't understand. Yeah,
mm. I think it became difficult to justify like Aikido during COVID. Because as you say, roughly, people were at home, they had a passion, they wanted to research it, they'd spend a lot of time on the internet. And then that's why I asked you the topic about the internet guy that wants to speak about the streets. And then you're like, but most of the time it's rubbish. So unfortunately, we are burdened with, we're Aikido is a community. It's not a single dojo.
yeah,
It's not confined to your dojo or my dojo or anybody. It's like Aikido is a community. And as a
yeah,
community, to a degree, we're almost responsible for what happens within that community. And so, if you have some guy who's kind of like making you look stupid, then it makes everyone look stupid. And unfortunately, that's the curse of society. Societies work like that.
yeah. And if you call that person out, then you're going down to their level.
Hundred
I
percent.
think what's left is for people like you and me is just to do the best we can. And it sounds pretty simplistic, but I think we have no choice but to do the best we can.
Mm,
I spoke to Bada Sensei once, and I asked him about Kushida Sensei, and he said he walked into the Yoshinkan first day, and Kushida Sensei was teaching, and he said he was drawn by the magnetism of that man.
mm,
And there's so many people the same. They walked in and they saw Bada Sensei, and he don't wouldn't have mattered whether he was doing Shinkendo, Aikido, using a pair of chopsticks. They go, that's what I want to do.
mm,
And I think we need to let our personalities come to the fore.
mm,
Um, and someone once said to me, just very recently, he says, sell people what they want, give them what they need. And I think we need to use that in running a martial arts school. A
mm,
lot of us say, no, what you want is immaterial, self defense, immaterial. Go to a higher level. This is what you need. No, you want something? Yeah, I'll sell it to you. You pay fees. I'll teach you how to defend yourself. I'll teach you, give you fitness, da 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 da. And then give them what they need for nothing.
mm, mm.
That's going to be my new business model.
Let me know how it goes.
I got to flesh it out a bit. It's a work in progress, but I got to flesh it out. But it makes a lot of sense. We need to feed what people want. We need to feed that, and they're willing to pay for that.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is most people don't know what they want. That's the problem, isn't it?
No, no, I'll go one better. They know what they want. They don't know what they need.
Mm, mm,
A
yeah.
lot of people say, "Yeah, I want Aikido. I want self defense. I want fitness." But really, they're looking for a bit of socializing. They're looking for a father figure. They're looking for something else that they can't verbalize. So let's give them that. Sell them what they want, and then give them what they need.
It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good.
Ask me
It's a
again in
good
six
phrase.
months. I'll see if it's working. Ask me again in 6 months. Yeah.
I will do. What problem did you actually have a full time dojo? I mean, obviously you've been doing it a long time. When did you decide to go like full time, live in the dojo, and it was your job and the only thing you did?
I I got my own premises because I was being pissed around everywhere I went to rent. I had issues.
Mm,
You couldn't train at this time. You couldn't train at this time. So I said, no, stuff it. A lot of people had the money. They bought a house. I bought a dojo at in 1984. I bought a warehouse, set up a dojo with an apartment in the back. That was the first time, and then gradually I always worked part time, and then gradually I started doing Aikido full time, and and it rolled along. Was never a conscious decision.
Mm.
If I had my life again, I'd work 9 to 5 in the public service, work for the government, work for the man, and then teach Aikido 3 times a week. No stress, no drama, nothing.
Oh, I promise you, there's always stress. It doesn't matter what you do in life. It's actually something that I learned very young. Luckily,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you do. There's
It's
always stress involved.
yeah, but the thing is, if you turn your passion into a livelihood, then it becomes a double-edged sword,
Mm.
and you a lot of people lose the love of the passion because of the stress of trying to make it viable and make it pay, you know,
Mm.
pay, and then other people go totally commercial and lose all that passion.
Mm.
Uh, the people who keep the balance, that's the hard part.
Mm.
And that's another reason, I like Obata Sensei. I'm not just blowing smoke up his ass, but I see him as one of those people who balances it out.
Mm.
And he always says to me, Joe-san, you have to balance Aikido and life, Aikido and business, life and business. Joe-san, you have no balance.
Yeah,
He always says that to me, which is true.
because
I don't
you're a
have that
full-time
balance.
martial
Mine,
artist.
mine is, sorry?
You're a full-time martial artist. Where's the balance?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe before I die, I find the balance. Yeah. Um, but yeah, and the hard part is that the people around you pay the price.
Mm. I know you know him, but Dave Rubin once said that to me. I sat down with him and I asked him,
Yeah.
"What's it like going full time?" And he said, "What it's like." He says, you trade your hobby for a business. Understand that a business is not a hobby and a hobby is not a business." And it's like very small words, but I sat there and I thought about them for a very long time, and I realized, like, yeah, it's kind of not like it. Like, you can't tell me that the guy playing for Man United, who's about to score, the winning goal, yeah, he probably enjoys playing football, kick around with his friends, but there's no ways on earth that guy's enjoying himself when he's got angry fans in the audience. He misses the ball and they all want to like chop his head off. Like that's not fun.
Mm, mm.
Like, you know, business and hobbies, they're not really the same. So yeah, I admire
Yeah.
you for doing what you do for as long as you have. Like, for me,
Well, I
you're
think I
you're
think no
my
one
inspiration in that front.
don't. You need to find another inspiration. No one else will give me a job. That's why I'm stuck here. No,
I'm sure that's not true.
I enjoy what I do, um, and this is something that I've always said. If one day I don't enjoy it anymore, and hang up my belt and just do something else, I won't do Aikido because it's the only thing I know how to do. I
Mm,
refuse to do that. That's an insult to me and an insult to Aikido. I do it for as long as I enjoy it, and if I don't enjoy it anymore, I'll stop.
mm. I think
And
that's a good.
and you know what? You know what? I've enjoyed the journey thus far. Not every day, but overall, I've enjoyed the journey, and I've got no regrets.
I think that's a good area to
I
stop
lie,
on.
I lie. I've got lots of regrets. I lie. Yeah, but
There
yeah,
you go. You ruined it now.
yeah, no major regrets anyway. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to thank
Yeah.
you for joining me. We've nearly been an hour. It's been a great
Awesome.
conversation. I had fun. Thank you for taking
Thank
the
you.
time.
Thank you. And if Obada Sensei sees this, he'll get upset because I say also all the time. So, but yeah, that's
I've heard.
part and parcel of being a Yoshinkan person. And by the way, small correction: I do the Yoshinkan system of Aikido, but I'm no longer in the organization.
Well, there's a conversation for next time. That's a
Another
conversation
time,
in
yeah,
itself.
yeah.
Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Awesome.
Thanks. Cheers.